Who would you consider the clear QB2 from this rookie quarterback class for 2023? Denny, I'll start with you.
Clear QB2. I mean, I got to go with Anthony Richardson.
No, he's the QB1. So who is the clear QB2?
Oh, I thought you were saying Bryce Young goes.
No. So I would have taken Anthony Richardson if I had the pick. Anthony Richardson is like basically the consensus QB1 for 2023 and in Dynasty and Superflex. Who would you say is the consensus QB2 behind Anthony Richardson?
I think Bryce Young. There are some things about Stroud that freaked me out a little bit. And Bryce Young, look, I'm an analytics guy. I never watched a game. I never will watch a game. But everything I've read about Bryce Young over the past couple months says that that dude is potentially special. And I don't mean that I've completely given up on the idea that he's too small, because I do believe that he is too small. But also he is an incredible football mind. And I think that he can immediately step in and distribute the ball in a way that a veteran NFL quarterback would, in an offense that will probably not be fantastic, but good enough, and could be surprisingly pass heavy if they do trust Bryce Young, like I think they will.
Yeah. Before I go to Kyle, I mean, the reason I took Bryce Young is just between CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, I would say Bryce Young has the most concerning question mark, and that is his height. But in terms of like overall question marks, I just felt like CJ Stroud had so many more than Bryce Young, and that Bryce Young's question is big, but it's really the only question. But like if he doesn't get hurt, I just feel like he looked like a future NFL superstar at Alabama. But I don't know, Kyle, how do you see things? I mean, CJ Stroud is a very interesting prospect in his own right. Who do you think should be the second quarterback off the board after Anthony Richardson?
Yeah, early in the offseason, at the point in which we thought CJ Stroud was going to go first overall, if you remember many years ago in this long draft process, that was something that actually happened. Yeah. I actually thought like CJ Stroud's analytic profile was slightly better than Bryce Young's. They're actually both like stunningly similar in terms of just like the raw stats they put up, their trajectory in the NFL, where they both sat as freshmen behind a future NFL quarterback to go on for two like purely elite seasons. But Stroud was a little bit better in like EPA per dropback type of stats. So I gave him a little credit there. But given that the NFL, it was 1A, 1B, I like them both. Given that the NFL seemingly really decided on Bryce Young being the number one, he clearly became the number one by the end of things. It was expected weeks ahead of time, and it was clear that the Texans also had him number one. So I think that the NFL widely, almost unanimously agreed that he was better than Stroud. I'll split it back that way. When it was going Stroud one, I probably would have went with my own gut and went Stroud, but I am going to I'd take Bryce Young where you took him too in super flex drafts. And I kind of think the opposite of like Stroud's his shortcomings, right? I think he does have one pretty potential kryptonite, which is he was bad under pressure in college. There's not a way to split it, right? He has the athleticism to scramble, but he didn't really do that, right? He just let the pressure get to him and throw inaccurate passes. So I do think that, although pressure statistics are very like fluky, hard to pin down, that is a concern for him, that if he gets into the NFL and teams can just rattle him by blitzing, or teams with good pass rushes can rattle him, there's just not that type of silver bullet in the on-field game in Bryce Young. Off-field, if you count his height off-field, he carries that height with him when he goes into the locker room, so I'll count as an off-field.
It is a major off-the-field concern, Bryce Young's height.
Yeah, that is obviously a concern. And what he comes in, what it is, like 204, dude is not playing at 204, right? He how many gallons of water did that poor guy drink before he weighed in at the combine? So sure, those are concerns, but you just cannot find a hole in his game when you look at the spreadsheets, unless your spreadsheet has height, of course, whereas there's at least one kryptonite for CJ Stroud.
Didn't anything to add there?
I do. Well, I wanted to add something about Bryce Young and the Panthers offense, and I found this interesting, and I was looking for a forum to share. I was thinking about writing about it, but no, I'm going to say it on the podcast. I watched the entire Carolina Panthers press conference after picking Bryce Young. Okay. All 55 minutes, folks. I did it for you. I did it so you don't have to.
Yeah.
And David Tepper, for some reason, spoke almost the entire time.
That is his style.
And talked about how he didn't know anything about football, but he said, and he pointed to the GM and Frank Reich. Yeah, him, yes. and he said we signed Adam Thielen with Bryce Young in mind. In that Adam Thielen runs the sort of precise routes that they believe would mesh well with Bryce Young. So I just wanted to throw that out there for the folks to consume, the fact that they were thinking ahead and saying, we need Thielen for Bryce Young. I think that that's something to file away.
When Kyle talking about like tiebreaker being like real life capital in the NFL, to get Bryce Young, a team had to trade up. How many spots was it? So he's the kind of guy who was valued
up, right? Or 9, right? 10 or 9. And they moved heaven and earth to get up there.
Yeah.
So he was the kind of guy who was valued where you had to make one of those like Godfather offer trade deals. And so that is another bullet point in his favor. And CJ Stroud is going to be really one pick later. It's not like the draft capital was drastically different, but he was like seemingly the consensus number 1 player on the NFL's board for this draft. So will be a very interesting situation going forward, hopefully the next 10 to 12 years.